Yo, what is up, my Ammonites? It is your boy Yen Guy, and welcome back to the lab. Now, as you can clearly see, that I actually did, in fact, have to do a little bit of remodeling because the hybrid that I've just created clearly took a lot more space than one would most certainly expect. And yes, it is also the same hybrid that has not even been announced or even detailed an explanation, but yet somehow has already made its very first kill. And yes, it is very exciting, and it is time to introduce the most dangerous monster to ever terrorize and govern the very seas. But before we get into all that, as always, if you like to see more hybrids and you want to see other content that is a little different than what you would expect here, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz, to become a very lucky Ammonite today. And without further ado, let's get right into the nitty-gritty and find out what makes this absolute monster the way it is, and why does it look like a monster from the Star Wars franchise? Let's take a look. To acknowledge the physical attributes of this monster, yes, you've seen the thumbnail, and you're probably wondering, why does my hybrid look like the aqua monster from Star Wars Phantom Menace? Well, I like to explain it as a form of convergent creation, if you will. A sort of convergent evolution, so to speak. And in other words, no, I did not use any kind of alien DNA, unlike some challengers that thought it would be a good idea. But no, there's actually a reason why it looks the way it is. So, let's get into the body first. The first base genome that I've actually chosen is actually Tylosaurus, a type of marine reptile that is actually a close relative of the Mosasaurus, giving it a very fast and surprisingly nimble speed of up to 30 miles an hour in short bursts. And it also is capable of doing that and using that as a ramming weapon, using its snout to give devastating impacts, and then moving in for the kill with very deadly jaws and teeth, even having a second set of teeth in the upper mandible. And yes, it is very much like monitor lizards and snakes. But we'll be paying a close attention to those set of jaws in a bit of a later detail. But for now, let's focus on the Mosasaur. It's already about 60 feet long, give or take. But I want this thing to be much more adaptable. Even though it does have scales, they're not exactly the heavy-duty armor plating that I was hoping. To fix that, and also giving it a bit of mobility on land and in fresh water, I've chosen the one and only saltwater crocodile. And I don't think I need to answer why that is. Not only does the saltwater crocodile possess one of the most powerful jaws in the entire animal kingdom today, it also has very durable body armor in the form of osteoderms and scales, and it also has an extremely powerful immune system, making it resistant to almost any kind of disease and even certain types of venoms. And that is actually kind of critical if you want to be adaptable. But up against temperature changes, I want my monster to be able to survive in colder climates. And also maybe add a little bit more of a social behavior, and maybe make it a bit more aggressive, and add on to the armor. At least a secondary layer, that is. For this, I have chosen the southern elephant seal. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I just choose sperm whale? Well, yes, that is true. It does have a lot of blubber and a thick hide, but I've chosen the elephant seal for, again, its ability to move short distances onto land, but also, it is also capable of surviving in Antarctic waters, completely covered in ice sheets and glaciers and all that jazz, even diving down to as deep as about 8,000 feet. But adding that sort of attribute would absolutely make it very advantageous, allowing it to swim in colder areas where most other reptiles would not be able to go. And that blubber can also further enhance its armor by making it more distributive against various blunt forces. So it can take a hit and give one back even harder. But swimming in cold waters and warm tropical areas is one thing, but being able to dive down is a completely different story. For this, I have actually chosen another actually 3 marine mammals. For starters, I've actually also chosen a close relative of the sperm whale, and I'm sure you already guessed it. It is none other than the rival of Megalodon himself, Leviathan. This deadly sperm whale has not some of the biggest teeth in the animal kingdom, up to well over 18 inches on average, and being extra thick, so you know that bite is gonna punch through bone and other things as though it were nothing more than butter. And on top of that, having this deadly whale is capable of ramming as well, and as a relative of the sperm whale, you would most certainly expect it to make deep dives, thanks to its spermaceti, theorized to give it the ability to dive deep underwater, but more crucially, allows it to further enhance its ability to use echolocation. That ability is going to be critical when tracking down its prey. If it's not for the forked tongue of the mosasaur or its great eyesight, hearing your opponents from a far distance is going to be very advantageous. And a fun fact about the Leviathan, it is also believed that it can actually weaponize its echolocation. So having that long-distance weapon underwater, that's gonna be an interesting weapon. Whether or not it's actually true is up for debate. But even still, having dense blubber as well would also further enhance its ability to ram its opponents, whether it be small as Vex or bigger opponents. Either way, there's gonna be a lot of damage. But to further enhance the instincts, I have chosen the orca whale, which, fun fact, there are actually 3 different groups of orcas. I don't really know for certain about the entire list on hand, but being extremely a successful predator and having survival strategies of hunting would prove extremely advantageous, allowing my monster to hunt down a wide variety of prey, whether it be foraging for crustaceans or hunting large game or anything else in between. So having those instincts are gonna prove critical. But diving down would be even better. So for this, I've actually chosen the marine sloth. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Why a sloth? Wouldn't that be contradictory? Well, actually, no. For you see, having dense bones and actually claws that can forage for even aquatic plants, this would make it a hyper omnivore, mostly a powerful predator, but can forage by other means as well in desperate times. And not to mention, the claws can not only do devastating damage against opponents, it would actually allow it to cling onto rocks and coral reefs, and even hull itself much easier whilst on land. Having those dense bones would also absorb even greater impacts. So that's actually also further enhancing its body armor in a certain way. And already, before we get into the fun stuff, this monster's stats is already making this monster about 60 feet long, weighing multiple tons, and able to swim at speeds of up to 30 miles an hour. And there's also a bit of a side effect thanks to the saltwater crocodile. It actually has the trait that is very well known as indefinite growth, meaning this beast can grow even bigger than 60 feet or 20 tons. This is a very big boy. But I've already mentioned the intelligence of this creature, having the instincts of both the orca and the leviathan, and maybe a little bit of other factors as well. But having that high intelligence and that adaptability to hunt various species of prey would make this monster a very adaptable fighter. So having the brain and the body of this beast, let's go on ahead and move on to the really fun stuff. Yes, it's already impressive that it's a massive beast that can stay underwater for long periods of time and dive depths to well over 11,000 feet. But you know what the problem is as of so far that this hybrid is suffering from? All the genomes that I have chosen as of so far all have one thing in common, and that is they are all air breathers. So I'm gonna have to find a way to fix that. So by starters, I am going to choose the axolotl. Yes, this tiny little amphibian would not only allow it to adapt to various injuries and recover in some small abilities. Now, obviously, it's not going to be growing back limbs and missing body parts like very fast like the axolotl can, but healing from other injuries is going to be critical. Even though due to its large size, it wouldn't be able to recover as well. But what I'm after is actually the external gills. Having those little appendages at the side of the head would allow this monster to swim underwater indefinitely and stay in the deepest dark depths of the ocean without needing to worry about drowning. But we can also do one thing better. I have also chosen the pufferfish, also having gills, and actually also further allowing it to enhance its body armor by inflating itself with water. The pufferfish would also give this monster the ability to forage in other forms of food. Because fun fact, how the pufferfish gets its poison is actually coming from the tetrotoxins of the crustaceans and coral and algae of the things that it eats. So, storing those toxins into its body to weaponize later would be very advantageous. And to further enhance that poison resistance and even weaponization, I've chosen the nudibranch. Well, as you're probably familiar, thanks to Goji Center's Indoraptor 2.0, the Arapaima is a practically bulletproof fish, having scales that are specifically designed to be resistant against piranha attacks. And as you know, piranhas have very razor-sharp teeth. But adding that body armor would further enhance its ability to not only absorb impacts, but actually stop itself from getting cut. So, making my sea monster bulletproof in multiple ways than one would be very advantageous in a fight. And also, I've chosen the nudibranch, specifically the blue sea dragon sea slug. Yes, this little sea slug is very well known to eating very toxic jellyfish tentacles, and even things like the Portuguese man-o-war, allowing it to weaponize those stinging cells is gonna be very advantageous, making my sea monster not only going after dangerous game like sharks, whales, and even forage for certain plants, now it has the ability to go after algae and even blooms of jellyfish, weaponizing those stinging cells add to its full advantage. Storing those stinging cells to various appendages in the limbs, neck, and other vulnerable areas would actually protect itself from even the most dangerous and vulnerable striking attacks. But yes, combine that with the Arapaima and other things, that armor is already practically indestructible, even with the pufferfish DNA, inflating itself and striking. This would actually make it a devastating tank. But why stop there? For you see, I did mention that the mosasaur actually has a secondary set of teeth at the upper mandible. Well, what if I told you I had a way to make that venomous? For this, I've actually chosen the sea crate. Yes, I've chosen a sea snake. Not only would it be allowed to deliver a venomous bite after a devastating crushing bite, but it can also breathe underwater using its skin, if not its external gills. And having a forked tongue further enhancing its senses, the sea snake contributes also its forked tongue, allowing it to smell its prey and even maintain a streamlined body. Of course, my sea monster is gonna be much more muscular and having more limbs than the sea snake, but being able to come onto land by slithering and crawling like a monitor lizard, that's gonna be very helpful. But there's another way I can actually deliver venom, and that is the platypus. 'Cause striking at the tail is gonna be a very common thing for other combatants to strike at. So having deadly spores at the back of the foot would prove a very critical difference between losing the fight or winning the fight. Or in this case, sink or swim. So having that deadly spore, thanks to the platypus, would be advantageous. And of course it also now has electro senses at short ranges. So yes, even though it has a lot of venom resistances, immunities towards various diseases, and having a very strong armor as well, it still has to be very careful against electrical impulses, lest it be overstimulated. But what if I told you there was actually a way to strike at enemies from water onto land or even flying foes? For this, I have chosen the archer fish. This tiny little fish also contributes with using its gills to allow itself to breathe underwater, but having the ability to spray water multiple times its own body weight and at pinpoint accuracy, combining that with a pufferfish, this would actually allow my sea monster the ability to store water, mix it with various toxins, and spray up to 300 feet with the force of a fire hose. Now that is a devastating weapon. It's not lethal by itself, but it will be more than enough to allow my monster to move in for the kill. So, with that, we have the stats right here. And you're probably wondering, what kind of a monster did I actually just create? Well, let me introduce you to Neptunus Letosito Draco. Or, as I would actually call it in short, feel free to sing with me now. It is none other than...
Poseidon.
That is right, my Ammonites and new viewers. Meet Poseidon, Neptune's coast whale dragon. This beast is a titanic 60 feet long, 20 plus tons, because remember, there is that indefinite growth trait that is from the saltwater crocodile and other contributors, and able to rear its head up to a staggering height of 17 feet when fully raised before slamming down with the force of a delivery truck, swimming at speeds of up to 30 miles an hour in short bursts, and a water cannon strength, or should I say range, of 300 feet. That is a very powerful beast, having some of the most powerful jaws in the animal kingdom, being able to harvest, store, and deliver poisons in various ways, ranging from its bone-crushing jaws, deadly claws at the rear foot, and even the external appendages, thanks to the nudibranch genome, allowing it to deliver devastating attacks in multiple ways than one. And quite frankly, it actually kind of gives a psychological factor towards humans. Yes, it can actually fight humans. For if it is going up against, I don't know, say, an illegal Chinese fishing fleet, this beast would look very much like an Asian dragon. And as some of those fishermen would know, you do not want to mess with a wrathful dragon. So there you have it. Poseidon, fully unleashed, and now in full detail as to how this disgusting hybrid that has dared to use alien DNA tried to challenge my hybrids before Poseidon was even unleashed. Now, you're probably noticing that this beast actually looks a lot like the the Aqua monster from Star Wars. I actually did not know it would actually look like it at the time. I just thought it would actually kind of look similar to a very broad-headed crocodile. But after close comparison, I think I may have overdone myself in this way. So I'm sorry if it feels like I am copying someone else's work. But that is not what... But I've actually used realistic animals. So, in short, I have designed this beast to go up against the most toxic beasts, like a jellyfish, to the largest beasts, even giant titanic squids. So if it actually has arms, so does my beast. In fact, it actually has claws that can slice them off. And if not that, if it just tried to strangle it or bite it at the neck, arms, or legs, those appendages are gonna cause a devastating, slow, and agonizing death, or at least give Poseidon enough time to deliver a deadly bite. And not only that, I've also may have forgotten that it also has a social genetic ability, thanks to the Orca and Leviathan DNA. And also the elephant seal as well, but yeah. This actually allows it to be not only extremely intelligent, but cooperative in numbers as well. So it can not only hunt as a singular individual, but it can even hunt in packs. Yes, this is a multifunctional, a multi-strategic beast. So, if this does not get Goji Guy's Vex running, I do not know what will. But that will probably be a video for another time. So if you want me to demonstrate a few hybrids that Poseidon may go up against, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment saying what would happen if this hybrid or that hybrid would go up against my Poseidon. Leave those comments. Please do it for the algorithm gods. And as always, I will see you at the next dive. Yen bye and good night.